thank you for joining us and participating in the career webinar from the Lighthouse for the Blind. My name is Cheryl Cummings. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the Workforce Development Manager here at the Lighthouse. I am a Black American woman who is blind. Today, our speaker is a marketing professional and author who will introduce herself in a moment. There are also two ASL interpreters who are on screen and will spotlight themselves throughout the webinar. Captions are turned on. I also want to recognize our moderator slash host, Elena. Elena will let us know when you raise your hand and if there are any questions in the chat or the question and answer part. So this is part of a series of webinars for people who are blind or low vision, deaf blind, and blind with other disabilities. The purpose of the series of career webinars is to provide you with tools and resources which you can use to sort of take charge and manage your career exploration and your career development. Each month, we focus on different topics, such as tools to use to create a resume, the use of assistive technology in the job search process, interviewing, talk about networking, and we talk sometimes about self-employment. Please look out for future webinar announcements and join us. So to get us started, I'm going to invite our speaker to introduce herself.
Hi, I am Patty Fletcher, and I am from Bristol, Virginia. I am the owner and creator of Patty's Worlds Publishing, and the subtitle is where blogging and podcasting are publishing too. I'm no longer Tell It to the World Marketing. I have not been that for quite a while. I consolidated everything into one place on my website. And so, just to also, I am a self published author. I have 5 books published and one more on the way, actually, 2 more on the way back to back. So, number 3 in a book series will be out soon, and so will a poetry book be out soon. So, both my marketing career and my writing career keep me busy, and they kind of go hand in hand. Um, I have worked in various settings over the years. I worked in a factory for the blind in Morristown, Tennessee, and Johnson City, Tennessee. I worked as a telemarketer agent for an insurance agency for a while. I worked for a crisis intervention information and referral hotline 211 for 9 years, 5 of which I held a supervisory position. And then I went out onto my own and decided to be an entrepreneur, start writing and blogging and doing a newsletter, which turned into a magazine. And that turned into content promotion. So I'll stop right there, Cheryl, and let you ask another question so you can go in the direction you want to go.
All right. Well,
If you don't know, then we'll get lost together.
all right. But I want to say, I mean, thank you for telling us that because I think in sharing your background, you basically, I think, you know, at least for me, you told me like why you're the perfect person to talk with us today. So just a little bit of logistics, then I'm going to turn it back to Patty, which is basically Patty's going to speak to us for about 20, 30 minutes. And then when she's finished, we're gonna invite you to raise your hand and to ask questions. So we're really, really appreciative of the fact that Patty's here and that she's going to talk to us about what is a personal brand and then how to use a personal brand well, how to create one, and then how to use it as you're looking at job searching and as you're looking at, career development, career promotions. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to you, Miss Patty.
Okay, so I think the best way for me to talk to you about all of this is to simply talk to you, give you a little more story in that background that I gave you. And we'll just start at the beginning when all I knew about looking for a job consisted of looking in the newspaper at the want ads and the classifieds because I was a teenager in the 80s. So, teenagers want to get a job and make their own money. Excuse me, I am so sorry. I have very bad allergies. So I actually got my first real work experience in school with the Lions Club work program. And they taught us how to apply for a job and get a job and keep that job, be on time. And we even had a bank at the school where we signed paychecks and cashed them. So I had an experience early on with work and what that meant to have my own money in my pocket. I think that really gave me a sense of a work ethic right there. And that is something that you've got to have before you build a brand or profile or anything else to start, whether you are going to apply for a job in the public sector, the nonprofit, the corporate, private industry, or you're going to branch out on your own. Whatever that looks like, whatever being employed looks like to you, the first thing you have to have is that work ethic, and that will be your foundation for your brand. And so I began at 17 and a half years old. I wanted a job. I wanted out of my home life, and I wasn't inclined to go to school. I asked my VR blind services worker, what do I do? He introduced me to the world of factories for the blind. And I went and I spoke with them. Well, they took me as a teenager at 17 and a half, put me in their work adjustment program. And when I finished it, I still had 3 months till I was 18. With nobody encouraging me, I went to that supervisor in that workshop and I said, Mr. Shockley, I would not like to leave. I would like to remain. And I would like to work until I turn 18, and then I would like to apply for a job here. And he was so stunned by that he sat me down and did an interview right there and talked to me about why did I want to and what that would look like for me. And it took a lot of arrangement and I had to sell it. So at that young age, I learned how to get what I wanted. And you have to decide three things. Who am I as an employee, as a worker? Why do I want to work at this job? What is my goal? And what do I need to say to the person hiring me that will get me into any position in this company, wherever it is that I want to work, and get my foot in the door so that I can end up doing what it is I want to do? When you've answered those questions, then you will be able to go forward and find whatever it is you're looking for. And you may not start out with your dream job. Holding cardboard corners at 17 and a half was not what I had in mind when I embarked on that journey, but it paid me a wage, allowed me to save money while I lived in a dormitory in their work adjustment program. And at 18, I rented my own apartment. So I set a goal. I knew what that goal meant to me and what I wanted that to be and what I wanted to end up. And I made that happen. And really, job search is that easy. So I started out as a factory worker and I kind of went into job search that way because my father was a factory worker and I respected him. And I'd seen him move up as a factory worker into other jobs. And I wanted that same opportunity. So I set myself a goal and I got my foot in the door in a sheltered workshop environment. And I worked for many years throughout volunteer blind industry. And then I decided I could do better. And so I went to the insurance field and got a job as a telemarketer. Again, I set a goal. I decided what I wanted to do. I got the training and I went and did it. Each time I went looking for a new position, a new job, I had to change my brand. I had to change what I was selling. It means I had to be a different person and project a different image in all ways to each employer that I approached. So each time you walk into a door to apply for a job, you have to be that person that would be working at that job. You've got to be an actor. You got to go in and be that person. If you're going into customer service in an office setting where you've got a phone room, do your homework. Find out what they wear. Dress like that. When you walk in that door to the interview, you look like that person they're seeing on that phone room floor. Wherever you're going to work at, you go in dressed that way. So that, unless maybe you're a swimsuit model, and then you might not want to go to your interview that way. And then again, you might. I don't know anything about that. But anyway, we'll leave that alone. But anyhow, um, you get the idea. You want to be that person. When I was working at 211 Contact Concern and I had become an AmeriCorps Vista with them, I wanted the supervisor's job, not the director's job, but the phone room supervisor's job. I coveted that volunteer coordinator slash phone room position. And I would go in every day dressed like I would dress if I were working that job. And I went to everything I could go to put myself in that position to work alongside that lady. And we didn't even really get along. But I recognized her for what she was, and she recognized me for what I was, and we worked well together. And sadly, she passed. But because I had been training and working and dressing and living that part for so long, they hired me. And they could have hired anybody. They hired me. So that is basically what I want to say to you. You have to decide what you want to be, and you have to live that. You have to live as if you are. Every, even to the point of, so maybe you won't want to dress like you would for your job, but when you sit down to fill out your job applications, get dressed, wash your face, comb your hair, brush your teeth, sit at your desk or your table, be professional, spend a specific amount of time every day on that. All these things are important. They're part of developing your brand, who you are. You're responsible. You are customer service 101. You are um, insurance salesman. You are a real estate agent. You are whatever you want to be. You are that when you sit there and you fill out those applications. My brand is writer content promoter. My statement that says exactly what I will do. I write and market to bridge the great chasm which separates the disabled from the non-disabled. So all of the work I do, including these public speakings, is geared toward bridging that gap that separates the disabled from the non-disabled. Helping somebody become gainfully employed is bridging that gap. Um, writing a book that talks about my disabilities and my challenges and how they affected my everyday life. That's bridging a gap because if you're entertaining and you're talking about an important subject, people are learning. So all those things go back to who I am and what I do. So you have to decide who you are, what you want to do, and be able to sum that up, pitch that to somebody in just one sentence, bridging the great chasm which separates the disabled from the non-disabled. So find out if you, whatever it is you want to do and why it is you want to do that thing. When somebody asks you that, be ready to state that. One sentence, one sentence. That's got to sum it up. That's your brand. That's who you are. That's what you do. And that's why you do it all in one sentence. And that is really how simple it is. And you can add a logo to that. You can add, um, once you get a resume, you can add whatever that looks like to you. You can be that, but know that, and as it changes, because it will change, even if you get a career and stay in that same career for 25 years, the way you do it, what you do, how you do, with whom you do it, all will evolve and change. So we'll always be ready to look at that statement and say, does that say who I am today?
Hmm.
So there you go. That's basically it. It's really that simple.
All right. So Patty, I'm going to invite people to raise their hands if they have any questions. But to get us started, I have a question for you. So you talked about sort of knowing who you are, why you want to do what you're doing. Um, so how, like, what tools or resources have you used to help you sort of, as you think about yourself in the sort of work world, um, have you used to help you sort of figure out who you are and what you wanted to do?
I'm sorry, ask part of that question again. The chat was talking. When people
Sure.
chat, it interrupts the screen reader. I've turned that back off for me. So go ahead.
Okay. No, I was wondering what sort of tools or resources did you
Oh, tools or
use
resources.
to
Okay.
help you figure out like who you are as you think of your professional life and what you want it to do.
Well, it changed throughout my life. Um, when I was younger and pursuing the first part of my career, I got my resources from blindness magazines, Braille magazines that I would get in the mail. I would read articles about what other people were doing. I talked with other people older than myself. I had VR blind services. And of course, as I grew and changed, that grew and changed. And um, it kind of continued like that. Only, we had the phone chat rooms and different ways that we all communicated. And so for a long time, that's kind of how it was for me. And then I began to branch out. And of course, I got a computer and the internet, and that really began to change things for me. The internet was a great tool and resource. LinkedIn was a great job resource for me back then when I was looking for job placement because it was accessible. I could get messages on my phone from for job applications when they came open. I could open the app and upload my application right there. I was standing in the grocery store one day waiting in line, and this lady goes, "You can move up now, ma'am, and stop playing on your phone." And I turned around, looked at her, I said, "Thank you for letting me know I'm not playing. I'm putting in a job application. Have a nice day."
Yeah,
Excuse me for living. But
right.
anyway,
Yeah. So let me ask Elena, do we have any raised hands or questions?
Yes, we have
Okay.
a hand from Ashley. Ashley, you're unmuted. If you could also unmute yourself.
Yeah. Is this working?
hi.
Yes, we can
Yes,
hear you.
You can hear me good? Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Hi there. What was your name? The presenter?
Patty Fletcher.
Patty? Was it P? Oh,
Yes.
hi, Patty. Thanks for coming. Yeah, anyway, I am I'm gonna look for a job soon, part time. I've had some health challenges, so I actually just as a quick background, I got a college degree from Marymount and like a general degree, a BA degree, and then I had internships, but then I never really acquired a full-time job. And okay. And then yeah, so then I'm gonna go back now that the pandemic's over. I might want to go back into looking for a job in like communications or maybe tutoring children or being some type of program assistant or communication assistant kind of. So it could be in an office or it could be working directly with people so anyway, as a goal there. So anyway, my question is sort of like an expansion of the tools question. I guess I was wondering, how did you gain insight into the cultures of the workplaces so you could better act like them and maybe because that's a great advice and I've tried to do that, but it's difficult because I don't know where I've interviewed like at community centers, I don't know much about them. So I guess I'm just wondering, how did you find out more about their work culture? And I'm curious to know also if you've done any informational interviews before you went to a real interview for a job. I've heard that's a way. I haven't been able to do informational interviews yet because people weren't returning my calls, but
Okay, let
I
me
have tried that.
address
Thanks.
one question at a time. You've
Yeah.
thrown
Yeah, thanks.
several at me. Okay, try to pick up a thread here. Um, so first of all, you again, you want to know exactly what you want to do, and you need to look at exactly what you need in a way of achieving that because you may have to go back to school, you may have to have whatever you need to know exactly what it is you need to achieve, what it is you want to do. That's your
Yes.
first thing. The second thing is ask questions. If you're going to interview somewhere, if you're going looking at getting a job somewhere, go online, look at their website, look at things like what people say about the company you're looking at working at. um, Ask questions of the person that is going to interview you. You're going to get a phone call before you go
Right.
somewhere. You're probably going to
Oh,
do a phone interview. So ask, what is your dress code? You know, um, you just really have to do your homework. That's how you find out all the stuff that you're wanting to know about your culture and all of those things. You just really have to do your homework. And some of it you won't know until you start. You just cannot do that. There's no way. As far as an informational interview, I'm not sure I know what that is unless you're talking about an interview where it's a mock interview, and I have done those. But I'm not a big huge prepper. I do my homework. I know what it is I'm after, and I walk in ready to achieve that goal.
I see. Okay, thanks.
Okay,
Yeah.
and can I want to answer about the informational interview. So,
Yeah, I was gonna.
I think generally those are really good when you're trying to gather information and when you're
Hmm.
trying to expand your network.
Yes.
So,
Hmm. Hmm.
and what I've heard more specific, like more recently, I think in the past you could like contact people and say, "Hey, I'm interested in your field and I'd like to, do you have 10 minutes or so to meet
Oh, you
with
can
me?"
still do that.
Oh,
Yes,
oh,
you
I know,
can.
I've
but
tried
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
yeah, but what I was gonna say is what I've heard is like people are saying now that they want you to tell them specifically why you want to meet. So not a
Okay.
general
Oh,
request, but like, oh, I'd
got
really
it.
like to talk with you because I am interested in understanding, the culture of your organization and
Yes.
a little bit more about your background and how you got into this field. So something like that, it
Oh.
sort of narrows it down for people, right? And then if you really are asking for just 10 minutes, they understand I can talk about that in 10 minutes. So
Yeah,
just
that's a great advice to
Yes,
be more
uh,
specific. Maybe I would get more responses then because
yes,
right.
otherwise they might think I'm like a solicitor. Yeah, informational interviewing for those who don't know was like I learned about it in my business class. It's basically where you ask a person in your field, like for me to be public relations or marketing,
yes.
um, about the field, like what a typical
That's
day is
right.
like for
Right.
So
them.
that's kind of what Cheryl
Yeah.
said. So I want to
Thank
give
you.
you one really big piece of advice. Learn exactly what it is that you want to ask or say and be concise in your
Mhm.
information.
Got it.
That's
Yeah,
my
thank you.
biggest advice I can give you. You're welcome.
All
All right, thank you, Ashley. Um, Cheryl, do you want to take more questions?
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is all question and answer part.
Okay, great. We have Joe, you're up next. If you could unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hi.
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 Patty, I know you, you know me. Um, I have a quick question about something you brought up and when you mentioned about the chasm. Um, to kind of streamline, much like you in my life, I've gone through many different, I guess, starting over points in different careers. But my career by trade is a teacher. When I first lost my sight, I applied for a online teaching position, and I felt confident, and I followed a lot of what you were talking about, knowing what you want and going for it, and selling it to the employer. My question to you is, what happens when you feel like you've done your due diligence? And it's difficult to kind of sustain your confidence in your ability when other people begin to discriminate on who you are and what you are capable of doing without giving you a chance to prove whether or not you can do it or not. I mean, if you're not given the opportunity, you were given the opportunity. Um, for those people that aren't given that opportunity but are still striving to, minimize that chasm, what would your advice be to those people?
Well, first of all, I will tell you I got rejected more than I got accepted. I just, I mean, I could give you a time span of a lot of years where I knocked on doors and windows and filled out applications and begged people for work, and nobody would hire me no matter what I had. And actually, that was especially true after I left my last job at 211 Contact Concern. Going back into the workforce was nearly impossible in the area I was in, and it is what drove me to entrepreneurship because I just got tired of beating a head against the wall, and I thought, well, I'm already broke, I'm already starving to death. I might as well just jump in the water and either swim or drown, and I just went for it because there was nothing else working. But in the meantime, you have to find support in others. You've got to talk to other people that's going through the same things you are. Understand that you're capable. Your people are the ones who are all these things you've heard, and it's a lot easier for me to sit here and say it than it is to do it, and I know because I've done it. So I, keep hanging in there, and as much as you can, when you're not working and stuff while you're looking, try to put yourself in a position where you can volunteer your talent, even if it's not exactly what it is that you are looking to be employed with. Being a volunteer can do two things. One, it gives you more experience to put on a resume. It gives you hours to show you were active and not just sitting home eating cheese doodles and watching TV. Um, it also gives you more experience. And a third thing that it can do is it can lead to jobs. I was a volunteer for 211 Contact Concern before I was in AmeriCorps Vista. Then I was in AmeriCorps Vista and then back to a volunteer. I kept my foot in the door and I ended up being a supervisor for 5 years. So volunteering is very important. Keep that, it keeps your self confidence up.
Yeah. And I'm gonna add to that. I'd like to add to that to say the benefit about volunteering also is that it helps you with maintaining sort of your mental well-being
Yes.
because it is even if you're not being paid, it is still you sort of, as Patty said, giving of your talents and at the same time gaining experiences. So there's there's definite value
Oh,
in
much benefit
yeah,
in
yeah, in volunteering. And also, I mean, the thing we started this year off talking about is being self-employed. Because sometimes, if, as Patty told us in her experience, right? I mean, if people aren't hiring you and you know you've got the skills, maybe this is the world saying, hey, you should create, like, become a personal tutor. Because it might be, it's interesting how people might not hire you as a teacher, but if you're like, hey, I'm good at math and I know how to teach your kids, you might get jobs as a personal tutor or some other option. But anyway, yeah,
Well,
just to think about that.
I wanted to ask the other part of, because much like you, Patty, I have become an entrepreneur and kind of broke out on my own. Now, I haven't made quite the amount of money I would like to make, but I'm
oh,
still
me either.
working towards it. But what I wanted to ask is you define what you do as an entrepreneur. Like, how would I begin to start to define that and be able to put it on a resume?
Got to answer those three basic questions. Who am I? What do I want to do? And why do I want to do it? So if you are a teacher and you want to go into private work, let's just say, we'll run with that ball. Let's say you want to be a private tutor. And I can tell you there's a lot of call for that now. But say you want to be a private tutor. So you would you would list your skills. Why, you got to answer, why am I a good tutor? What is your experience? What is your skill set? Figure out what your name would be. You want to answer that question, what am I, in one sentence. Um, so if you're building, so let's say you're doing that and you want to get a business card. You don't want to spend money on business cards. You want them to be small, less print, less cost. So on my business card it says Patio Fletcher, Patty's Worlds, bridging the Great Chasm, which separates the disabled from the non-disabled. And if they want to know any more, they got to look at the website. So you just got to say who you are, what you want to do, and why you want to do it, and then you just start building on that. And I can tell you that it's not easy. And once you get that idea, though, then you start talking it up. You
Hmm.
start telling people what you're doing, what you want to do. As soon as you get that first student, you talk about that. And, it's slow, it's hard. And if you are looking for something that will not whittle away at your self confidence, that is not the route. Self employment is not it. I can just tell you, I I can tell you there's light at the end of the tunnel because I have been applying for and trying to be recognized with VR blind services um, under self employment. in Tennessee now for since 2017, and it was always a no starter. I've just gotten word today that I qualify for the program in Virginia. And so persistence is that next word that you want to remember.
And Joe, I not to be self-promoting, but I will be, just to say that we started off the year with a focus on self-employment. And if you go to the Lighthouse's YouTube site, you can listen to those webinars, and there's some resources there, some organizations that really work with blind people and people with all disabilities who are entrepreneurs. And that's what they're set up to do. And I think
Yes,
th
very
that will
important.
give you an opportunity to like join a community. So as Patty says, you're not like by yourself, because starting your own business it
It
is
is
not,
very
it's
scary. It's hard.
yeah.
And you do it all. I remember my dad one time, right after I published my first book, and I was getting ready to do my first book sale, live book sale, and I had gotten my books in, and I had to decide how many copies of each one I wanted to take. I had to box them up. I had to hire a driver. I had to get them where they needed to go once I got in the building. I had to do it all, and I was so exhausted. I only made $50 after I paid everybody and did everything. I made $50,
Mm.
and I was so darn tired that I spent half of it on dinner on my way home. But I felt elated because I did it. And the next day, my dad came over and he noticed that I had these cut places on my hands. And he said, "What did you do to your hands?" And I said, "That's from boxing and unboxing books and handling tape cutters and I did it all." And he goes, "Yeah, you do it from the ground up. There's nobody to hire, nobody to holler at. You do it all when you're on your own." And so you really are on your own until you get so you can. And I network. I have people who help me now. I have some, I guess, for lack of a better word, staff because I've networked and I barter. What skill do you have that you can offer me in turn for what I can offer you? Because there's no point just handing money back and forth to each other. So we help each other, and I have a kind of a little co-op there.
So
Nice.
you said that's the Lighthouse YouTube channel?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
Lighthouse for the Blind, in the YouTube channel, it'll pop up. If you want to type in like Lighthouse for the Blind self-employment, I
Right.
think it'll pop up.
Thank you. I will definitely check that
It's
out.
probably on the
Okay.
main website too, I'd say.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Joe. We have a quick question in the chat. Hello, I wanted to know tools available for low vision disability. Also, how can the Lighthouse help with IT hiring?
Uh, I'm not sure. So I'm gonna say there are lots and lots of places that you can look for low vision resources. Um, so I
And
think if
that's
you
a very
just
broad term. What do you
yeah,
mean by low vision resources? What are you looking for?
right.
That could be anything from magnifiers to, yeah.
But I think but you can Google that, and I think actually I want to say yeah. I would Google it. I apologize. That's probably the best way. And I
I
apologize.
mean, low vision resources, you could look at places like the American Council of the Blind. You can look at places like American Foundation for the Blind. It really just depends on
Okay.
what you're looking for.
Yeah.
All right. We have a hand from Velma. You are unmuted. If you could also unmute yourself.
Good evening, everyone.
I
Hi. I have a question similar to, I guess, I don't remember, maybe two other questions I were asked. I was a former teacher for 15 years, and now I am a rehab vocational counselor. but I am currently going to school to get my master's in rehab counseling. But my intention is to test for my LPC so that I can become a grief counselor, not only just for people losing others, but also for vision loss, helping
Mhm.
people with vision loss and breast cancer, because those are the three things that I have dealt with personally. So I kind of would like to tie all that into, grief counseling. But my question is, if I am working towards that, I kind of want to put myself in that feel of being around other mental health care counselors. And I know at this point, that is not an option yet until I, get my license and test and all of that stuff. But are there any careers that you can suggest that I can go into that might possibly help put me into that field where I am working with counselors, but am able to, pick up things along the way that would help me in the future? I once I left teaching, I did do the online tutoring thing, and I wasn't making enough, so then I went back into, actually getting a outside
So
remote
what
job. So
I need to, I really need to ask you all to kind of be a little more specific in what you're asking because you've thrown three questions at me there. Okay. So again, you really need to know what it is you want to say. So I'll ask the first question, and that is, I believe, what can you do to put yourself in to a space where you can learn more to get you to the actual field you want to go in? And so you're wanting to change from the job you currently have into another job so you can work toward getting another job.
so I can work in that field where eventually I'll end up. Yes, ma'am.
So you're going to spend a lot of your time looking for a new job while you're trying to go to school. So my response to that is that seems a little counterproductive. And rather than doing that, unless you just are really wanting to do that, I would, and unless you can find that other job, I would keep the job that I have if you are currently working.
Mhm.
And I would volunteer in areas where you would be placed in situations where you would encounter that sort of work. For example, when I worked at 211 Contact Concern, one, that chat's really got to stop. Um, sorry, I lost my thread.
You
Um,
were at the
we,
211 contact.
Thank you. So I worked at 211 Contact Concern, and what we did there, we had people who were in school and they were going into a specific field, like what you're talking about, grief counseling, etc. And we would have them get on the lines and answer calls and do because it was counseling. Like we had a lot of listening calls. We had a lot of people who would call in who needed just to talk, and they gained hours, they gained experience, and they also were put in touch with people that worked in their fields. Like we had people who worked with us, counselors, psychiatrists, different people that we knew. And so we were able to put those people in touch with those. I had student nurses that were going into psych nursing. I had um, young ladies who were going into counseling and they were going to specialize in like you in a certain type of counseling. So I really recommend you try that approach. And then if you are really serious, then I would look for jobs in offices that employed such people as you eventually want to come.
Yeah. So I think Vilma, I would say like never quit your job until you have another
Oh, no,
job.
no, no. That
Never
And
wasn't
quit
the
your job
plan.
until
yeah,
you,
yeah.
oh
And I know you
no.
you said that you're pursuing a master's degree in rehab counseling. Is
Yes,
that
but yeah,
yeah.
I have to go that route, but I plan on
But
testing
you
for the LPC.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, so I think I mean in whatever school you're going to, or
They're also
wherever
going to
you're
offer
going
you
to, like, you
intern.
know, figure out about testing for the LPC. I mean, you might want to talk with the people there to ask them, like, are there associations? And even this might be an opportunity where you could use informational interviews, right? So find people who are doing what you want to do and go talk to them. Um, and since you're in school, it might be a little easier because there might be like alums from your school who are in that type of field. Um, so yeah, you could certainly
And
reach out to them.
if you are in school, a lot of times they have all kinds of referrals for such things as what you are asking. They probably have resources that you're not aware of. And so, yes, that's an absolute wonderful idea.
And
Okay,
is
thank you.
is that is that helpful to you or
Yes, yes, that does
okay,
help.
okay, awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking.
All right. Thank you, Velma. And it looks like we have a question from Casey. Casey, you are unmuted. If you could also unmute yourself.
Hi. First I would like to say to Patty, thank you so much for sharing um your life experience with us. I first wanted to say to Velma, really quickly about your question. I know you're doing vocational rehabilitation, that's your thing, and you're thinking about going into um grief counseling. Those are well within this in within the same realm. Getting your master's program is the way that you can achieve it. You can sorry, my background psychology. Um and then also there while you're what you would do is I would recommend joining like a mental health professionals Facebook group to try to get you ahead beforehand, reading a lot more and subscribing to things like Psychology Today, different things like that,
Yes, it's a good
so that you
idea.
can know what kind of career that is. Um, the track that you're on for that for your master's is good. Social work is also a good master's to have as well. Um, too, because that can cover a wide range. So just in case you, for whatever reason, ever did want to go back to vocational health, because it sounded like you had breast cancer awareness you wanted to have a population for. Um, and also you said something along the lines of um what was it, helping grief as long as like with losing their sight. So I would think about social work as well too, because that incorporates other groups of people. That's also the field that I'm in for my master's. But so my question to Patty is how did you what made you decide to get into writing? That's something that I'm really interested in. I was doing wanting to do journalism for a bit, as something to kind of support other income. Um, and I've also been interested in doing self-entrepreneurial stuff as far as nonprofit work, but I've never quite had the probably maybe a mentorship to learn more about self-employment and things like that. So that was pretty much my question. So the
Okay.
question, yeah.
Yeah. So first off, to the writing question, I started out storytelling when I was too young to write, and I began to put things down in spiral notebooks as soon as I could do it. And after that, it was typing, and after that, it was braille, and after that, it was computers, and so on. So I did not start publishing officially until 2014 when I published my first book. And the reason I did that is because I felt like I had a story that needed to be shared. Moving over to the nonprofit and mentorship, etc. Um, AmeriCorps Vista is a magnificent place for people to gain work experience and make a living stipend while doing it. And they hire a lot of um, disabled people. They have their own ADA department. When I went for their training seminars in Atlanta to get my Vistaship, they had their ADA department with them there and did presentations on this is what you can expect. This is what you should be able to expect from your uh, site that you're going to work on. This is what you can expect from them. This is what they can expect from you. It was a lovely training seminar, and disableds were highly recognized. And unless the federal programs that take care of that are done away with, um, that is going to be a lovely place and has been since 1963 for people to get experience. If you're college aged, you can do a summer program and earn college credits money. If you are youth or young adult, there's programs for you. There's programs for senior citizens. There's programs for everything, and the mentorship there is wonderful. Also, the American Council of the Blind has mentor programs that they offer. So there's a lot of places for you to get mentorship and nonprofit experience. And as far as entrepreneur goes, sooner or later, you just have to leap in and swim. I know somebody that I've worked with who is an entrepreneur, started out doing it on the side and working a paid job, and then finally took the plunge and was doing well enough and had enough client base to go on for themselves. So that's also an option.
I just remembered our primary presenter, and we're almost out of time.
I know.
So there's the National Disability Institute,
Oh,
and you
yes.
can Google them, and they are there primarily and actually only to assist people with disabilities who want to become entrepreneurs. And they have lots and lots of resources. So for anybody on the call who is thinking about it, I would say like start there, and then they would be able to assist you and maybe even help you find resources in your local area. So, do we have any more hands or questions, Elena?
That was our last one.
Oh, perfect timing. Right. So Patty, this has been really fantastic, and I'm so grateful that you agreed to speak with us. So, as we are, as they say, time flies when you're like learning a lot and having a good time. So is there anything that maybe we haven't touched on, um, up to now that you really want us to know as we think about sort of personal branding and using that in our job search and as part of our like job development?
I really can't think of anything that we haven't really covered unless I mean, I would have to have another 20 minutes because what I would really like to do, it does seem like there is an interest in entrepreneurship and self-employment. And I honestly could talk 20 minutes on that
Right.
because it is, and now for me, it wasn't as hard as for some, but there are a lot of facets that go into it, things that I didn't think about until I was already in it, and talk about learning to swim. Um, but what I would like to do, because we are running out of time, and I can tell you that I don't have a huge amount of time to spend, but I will answer emails. So what I'd like to do is just give you my website, information, and there's a email Patty link on the footer of every page there. And it's simply pattysworlds.com, and that's pattysworlds.com. And you can get in touch with me there. And you can also look at that website and get a kind of an idea of what branding means to me, because you will see it on every page of the website. You will see it in everything that I do. In every link you click, you will find it there. And you will then get an idea better about this is how you brand yourself. This is what it means to brand yourself. An image does not just mean what you look like, it means what you are projecting out into the world. So remember that in everything you do, you are projecting yourself and representing who you are and what you want to be out in the world. And you've got to sell it to yourself and believe it. And then you've got to sell it to everybody else and make them love it.
Oh, perfect ending. So thank you so much, Patty. This has really been really informative. I also want to thank our ASL interpreters and our host slash moderator. Thank you. And then I also want to thank you, our attendees, right? Because I really value the
Absolutely.
fact that you chose to attend this career webinar. And I want to let you know that we have a survey because we really value your input. And I would ask you to please take a few minutes and respond to the survey. We can do it like here, or you will get an email tomorrow with a link to the survey. And if you could take a few minutes to do that, it'd really be helpful because we really look at that information. As I said before, we are truly and deeply appreciative that you chose to join us today, and I hope that this information gives you another tool, another resource which you can use as you pursue your own career goals. So again, thank you very much for being here and for joining us. And please look for our announcement about our May program. It's going to be a little different. We're celebrating our 1 year anniversary. So I hope you'll come back and spend that time with us. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Patty. All right.